Hey everyone, welcome back to Commander Class episode 149. Today we're going to be talking about one of Magic's most powerful keyword abilities, Proliferate. It's a keyword that pretty much just says, hey, you have a counter. Cool, have more. From poison counters to planeswalkers counters to +1/+1 and -1/-1 counters, Proliferate's job is to make sure all these counters spiral out of control. Before we start spreading some counters, a quick shout out to my merch store. If you would like to help support the channel, I have a small little Etsy shop with t-shirts and hoodies with multiple colours, sizes and designs that people can enjoy. They are comfy and comfortable and are perfect for your next Commander night. If you like me and what I do, go help out and support the channel. You can also like and subscribe and do all those YouTubey things we always ask for. So let's talk about what Proliferate actually does. When you proliferate, you choose any number of players and permanents that already have counters on them. Any kind of counters. If there's poison counters on your opponents, you can pick them. Planeswalker counters, +1/+1, -1/-1. Like, they've even got hexproof counters, shield counters. No matter what counter it is, you go, I'm picking that. And then for each one of those that you pick, it gets an additional one of them. Which means the poison counter goes up by 1, so they're closer to death. A creature with a +1/+1 counter on it gets an additional +1/+1 counter on it. Same with a -1/-1. A planeswalker can be ticked up by 1. And this is only if you proliferate once. You can proliferate number of times. You can be nice to an opponent and mean to an opponent. You can have two opponents, one with planeswalkers and one with poison counters on it. And if the one with poison counters one is annoying you and being cheeky, you can go, do you know what, you get a poison counter. And then if the guy with the planeswalker starts laughing and being very nice to you, you can help them out too. I've also seen it used in politics to be like, I will power up your creature if you don't attack me with that creature. It's a really good politics keyword too. And the best thing is you get to pick and choose what you want. That's probably the best thing about this, because it's not all counters. If there is a planeswalker that you own, but you're like, no, I want to like ult it and get rid of it, you don't have to put the counter on it. Same with your opponents or anything like that. And a few times an opponent will ask for a little bit of help, and it's up to you if you want to do it or not. This is one of them rare politics keywords that really does matter, especially in the game of Commander. And it is super flexible. It's not just one form of counter, it's every form of counter. So it doesn't matter what the counter is, you can just get additional benefits from it. And it's one of those things that helps you scale. The faster you scale, the more cards you get to play and the more times you get to proliferate, and then you just go out of hand very fast. But now let's talk about the commanders. There is a fair few commanders that have this keyword themselves, and some of these commanders are known to be kill on sight. Now, if you watched my previous video last week when I talked about populate, you'll see 1 or 2 cards here that I mentioned last week. However, these are commanders that don't work well with proliferate, but they have proliferate. So if you ever want to make a commander deck, these are probably the better choices. But I know someone in the comments will go, what about this card? It will not have proliferate, but it could probably make a really good proliferate deck. So if you're interested in building a commander deck all about proliferate, here are some choices that you might enjoy. Starting off with Atraxa, Praetors Voice. For a green, white, blue and a black, you get a legendary creature, Angel Horror, that is a mythic. Has flying, vigilance, death touch and lifelink. At the beginning of your end step, proliferate, and is a 4/4. She is the queen of proliferate. She is a kill on sight commander for many years. She is so powerful that most people feared her. Maybe not anymore because how the game's changed. She's also got so many keywords for such a little price, so even then, without the proliferate trigger, her herself is a menace to deal with. Being able to attack and block at the same time, fly over most creatures, and then if anything blocks her, she kills them with her, and then you gain life, which means then you get to proliferate more because you're just gaining so much life. And the other great thing about her is you can play this in so many different ways. You want to make it that it's a -1/-1 deck killing all opponent's creatures, you can do that. You want to make it that she gains so much life with the +1/+1 counters, you can do that. You want it that it's a toxic deck or a poison deck, there you go. Planeswalker friendly deck where you play as many planeswalkers as you possibly can, again, why not? There's so many different variations that you can play her as. Brima's Blight of Urzaket. For 2 generic, a white and a black, you get a legendary creature Phyrexian Cat that is a mythic. Whenever you cast a Phyrexian creature or artifact creature spell, incubate X, where X is the spell's mana value. At the beginning of each end step, if a Phyrexian died under your control this turn, proliferate and is a 3/4. This seemed like a cool card, but Incubate was not the best in my opinion. I did find it okay, but I thought there's way better options and way better things you can do. I do think this is still playable and you can make a good deck from it, but not the best. And with this creature, it is quite hard to proliferate with. But the good side is when you do, you get to proliferate the Incubate tokens or the tokens that come from them. But then we have one from last week. Kath, Famed Mechanist. For 1 blue, red and a white, you get a legendary creature, Dwarf Artificer, that is a mythic. Has Fabricate 1. Other non-token creatures you control have Fabricate 1. Tap 2 and her, choose 1, populate or proliferate, and choose a 3/3. This one was cool because last week I said if you focused on the 2/2 servers, you're then able to get more 2/2 servers. With this, if you focus on the +1/+1 counters, you're able to get a lot of +1/+1 counters. On both of them, I do say because there is a blue pip, put in as many untap stuff as you can to keep tapping her as much as possible to be able to do it. But I say a nice balance of both would make a really good deck. Kylo Apogee Mind. For blue, red and white, you get a legendary artifact creature, Robot Artificer, that is a mythic. Has haste. Whenever Kilo becomes tapped, proliferate and is a 3/3. I like this as a commander. Pretty much the cheaper the commander, the better. I do like that this has haste, so you get to proliferate pretty much right away. My downside with this is the aim or objective is to attack each turn to be able to proliferate as much as possible. However, in my opinion, I think finding other ways to tap this down would be better. So if there's any cards that's like as an additional cost, tap a creature down or stuff like that would make it a lot better. I think adding cards, especially because it's like a 3/3, putting like Secret Tunnel and the land from Strixhaven, which is pretty much Rogue's Passage, but a cheaper one if they're like 3 mana or powers 3 or less or something like that. That's also going to be really good. So I do think this is a really good commander deck, but you can also build it in kind of different ways. You can focus on one of the 3 colors. You can go red and power him up, power a bunch of things, get a bunch of haste and attack that way. You can go white with a bunch of angels and stuff, and then tap him down to proliferate, put 1/1 counters on a bunch of stuff. And then with the blue, you get to do the same with Leviathans and stuff like that, tapping stuff down that you're able to attack freely with this creature. Rolsk Apex Hybrid. For 2 generic, 2 green and a blue, you get a legendary creature, Human Mutant, that is a mythic. Has flying and trample. When Rolsk Apex Hybrid enters the battlefield, put 2/1 counters on another target creature you control. When Rolsk dies, proliferate, then proliferate again, and is a 4/5. This is a commander because it's a legendary creature. However, most of the time I see this card, I think, in the 99. Pick a better Simic or more commander, put this in, and then put it on the 2/1 counters on your commander or on a big creature that you're aiming for, and then let this die so you get to proliferate twice. I do think it is a lot of mana for a commander. However, you're planning on picking another creature, so kind of the only reason I would say this is a commander is if you're ramping a lot and the aim is to play it, put 2/1 counters on it, sacrifice it to power up that same creature to put in your command zone to ramp to do it again would be the best way in my opinion. but that means you need to be ramping a lot. But in my opinion, I think putting this in the 99 is the best place for it. Teketh Inquiry Dominus. For 2 generic and 2 blue, you get a legendary creature, Phyrexian Horror, that is a mythic, has flying. If you would proliferate twice instead. For 1 and 2 Phyrexian blue mana, remove 3 counters from among other artifacts, creatures, and planeswalkers you control. Put an indestructible counter on Ethical and is a 3/5. I really do like these cards, the cycle of them, but I think this is one of the better ones. Whenever you proliferate, you get to proliferate twice. I do think, again, this is better in the 99, especially with Atraxa. And the fact that you're paying 3 mana and 4 life to make this indestructible is a good choice in my opinion, because I think you'll be actually getting, it's kind of a good investment. You're putting in that to proliferate twice a lot more, to be able to pretty much just constantly make sure this thing's alive, to be able to proliferate twice on your end step if you are playing Atraxa, to get a lot more than the 3 counters or tokens you're getting rid of. This thing can be absolutely terrifying if left unchecked. Tidus Yuna's Guardian. For a green, white, and a blue, you get a legendary creature, Human Warrior, that is a mythic. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may move a counter from target creature you control onto a second target creature you control. Cheer. Whenever one or more creatures you control with counters on them deal combat damage to a player, you may draw a card and proliferate. Do this only once each turn and is a 3/3. Any commander with a draw effect, in my opinion, is more likely going to be a good commander. Especially a cheap 3 mana cost one like this, that does a lot. One of the harder, more annoying things with proliferate or counters is that it stays on the one creature and you might want to move them around. I absolutely love Anima, but it's way better putting 1/1 counters on all other creatures and then putting them all onto Anima. So it's cards like this, if it didn't have the white pip, that would go really well in the deck like that. Yawgmoth Thran's Physician. For 2 generic and 2 black, you get a legendary creature, Human Cleric, that is a mythic. Protection from humans. Pay 1 life, sacrifice another creature, put a -1/-1 counter on up to 1 other target creature and draw a card. For 2 black mana and discard a card, proliferate and is a 2/4. This, in my opinion, is a really good graveyard recursion commander because you get to sacrifice stuff and bring it back, discard stuff and bring it back, making sure that things get -1/-1 counters, that every time you proliferate it gets closer to death. It is such a good card in my opinion and has a lot of benefits in other proliferate decks and does a lot. This card is usually quite expensive, I haven't checked in a while, but is a great commander and also great in the 99, plus it's cheap enough, especially for what it does. Agent Frank Harrigan. For 5 generic, a black and a green, you got a legendary creature, Mutant Warrior, that is a rare, has trample. Agent Frank Harrigan has indestructible as long as it attacked this turn. Whenever Agent Frank Harrigan enters the battlefield or attacks, proliferate twice and is an 8/6. A lot of mana in my opinion. I usually try and aim for 5 or less unless it is a absolutely broken commander. However, I do think there are better commanders in this color that does better stuff. It does get indestructible, but you have to attack each turn, but again that seems somewhat worth it. Whenever it enters or attacks, proliferate twice. Now it's the twice thing that's really cool, but because Magic keeps ramping and Proliferate's been around for a long time, they're starting to add in cards that now proliferate twice because it's getting too slow just proliferate once each turn. But I really do like that this is a card. I think it'll be better in the 99 than it would be as a commander, but that's just me. It's also in the best colors for +1/+1 counters and -1/-1 counters. Azuri Stalker of Spheres. For 2 generic, a blue and a green, you get a legendary creature, Phyrexian Elf Warrior, that is a rare. When Azuri Stalker of Spheres enters the battlefield, you may pay 3. If you do, proliferate twice. Whenever you proliferate, draw a card and is a 3/3. This is a great commander, however I'm seeing it as you have to pay a lot. You need the original 4 mana, which is fine, and then 3 which were altogether kind of not worth it, but you get to proliferate twice and draw 2 cards. So again, it depends on your deck and how you build it to make this worth it or not. To be honest, I actually think putting it in a flicker deck or putting it in a deck that kind of is better than this, but in the 99, not a hard focus on this card, would be a lot better in my opinion. This is one of those commanders that's easy to build but hard to stop. Lulu Stern Guardian. For 2 generic and a blue, you get a legendary creature, human wizard, that is a rare. Whenever an opponent attacks you, choose target creature attacking you, put a stun counter on that creature. For 3 generic and a blue, proliferate, and is a 2/3. This again is a weird commander. I actually would say definitely put this in the 99 or not at all. There is so many better cards that paying 4 mana each of your turns to be able to proliferate once does not seem worth it. But then paying the 3 as well to cast it is a lot of mana. You would probably have to wait a turn unless you're ramping. The best thing is that creatures attacking you, you get to stop one of them attacking you for the next turn. But again, that is so slow in my opinion, and the way Magic's been getting, you need a lot of faster stuff and be able to move counters around. So you kind of wanted that you're producing a lot of stun counters and then moving them around. Thromel Voice Butler. For 2 generic and a green, you get a legendary creature, Elf Advisor, that is a rare. Each other non-token creature you control enters with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. For 1 and tap it, proliferate X times, where X is the number of non-token creatures you control that enter this turn, and is a 2/3. It is in green, so you're hopefully ramping as much as you can, playing cards with additional +1/+1 counters on them, and then proliferating X. X is such a good thing when it comes to proliferate, because again, there's so many green cards that cost less. For how many, like this in an elf deck would be unreal, because the amount of elves that taps for how many elves you control, and then you're ramping, so you're literally playing, I've had games where I've literally played every elf in my deck. So putting this in would be absolutely amazing in decks like that, because I'm literally proliferating like 20-30 times. I know there is a Nissa Planeswalker that literally her ult is that. So again, getting closer to that, putting cards in that tap for each elf you control. That is, if you play a green creature, this costs a lot less. Galter, stuff like that. Creatures that become cheaper, creatures that produce mana, and then the ramp. And this card would be an absolute menace. And then we have the final one like we did last week, which is Zerval Sal Infested Captain. For a black, green, and a blue, you get a legendary creature, Human Fungus Pirate, that is a rare. Tap, remove a counter from another permanent you control. Populate, activate only as a sorcery. Tap, sacrifice another creature. Proliferate, activate only as a sorcery, and is a 3/3. There's not much to say about this card. It is pretty much like what I mentioned last week, but in reverse. Your plan is to add a bunch of counters, play a bunch of things you can sacrifice to be able to then add more counters, to then proliferate using this guy. I do think he makes a somewhat good deck, but it depends on your budget and how you build it. I think the more money you put in this, the better it can be, and is actually a really cool and fun commander, especially because you can mix between both. When it comes to all these commanders, they're all unique and different in their own way. Some are similar, but you can build them differently, and that's what I like. But next, we're going to be talking about the cards that will be fun to put in those type of decks to help you proliferate even more. So the cards that whenever you proliferate draw, or whenever cards that you get to proliferate again, these are the cards you're going to be aiming for to put in those decks. And when it comes to these decks, it's always fun to add in cards that let you move around counters, or just add a very powerful and strong counter, or try and hard focus on the type of counters you want to build in a deck. But when it comes to other cards with proliferate, these are more fuel to the fire to make your deck go faster. To make your deck go faster than your opponent, so then you get to play additional more cards and go out of hand until you win the game. So a lot of these are just pumping out value over and over and over again. So if you don't know any of these cards, here are some amazing cards with the keyword proliferate, and they are Ikron Moon Gauntlet, Staff of Completion, Sword of Truth and Justice, Vraska Betrayal Sting, Atomize, Bloated Contraption, Broker's Confluence, Contagion Engine, Contaminant Grafter, Dreamtide Whale, Filigy Vector, Glistening Sphere, Inexorable Tide, Karn's Bastion, Mutatal Advantage, Norn's Choirmaster, Pararchive's Maverick, Patrolling Peacemaker, Plain White Celebration, Radstorm, Reconcraft Theta, Ripples of Potential, Surge Conductor. So if you're ever interested in building a deck like this, you now have the commanders and amazing cards that you would want to aim in your deck, and then the rest is up to you, or if there is, I have many more classes for you to go through. The aim of this is to pretty much have so many 1/1 counters or additional counters on planeswalkers, or powering down your opponents. A lot of these cards are really good if you pick one of these as your commanders to support your commander. And when it comes to my overall thoughts, I actually give this keyword a 9.1. The only downside is there's some counters that it doesn't matter how many you have of them, like a indestructible counter. If someone destroys an indestructible counter, it gets rid of them all. So again, it does have its little bit of downsides, and it can cause arguments. That's it. This is one of my favorite and most powerful keywords in Magic the Gathering. But I think that's everything I can inform you with the keywords. So if you like this video, and if there's anything you would like me to touch up on, let me know in the comments down below. If you've built a deck or anything like that, let me know. While you're down there, remember to like and subscribe and do all that YouTubey stuff we always ask for. And as always, if you like this video, I have last week's Commander class here, a playlist of all the Magic Gathering stuff I make here, and a subscribe button here, and I shall see you all in the next video.